Alright, so I'm getting a little older, and my son Nicholas lives in California. I live in Arizona. My little brother lives in Texas. I'm getting to the age where I could have a heart attack tomorrow and die, and I've just been sitting around thinking about, you know, our family history, things that my son doesn't know about, even some things that my little brother doesn't know about. So I just wanted to put this together, something, oftentimes when a story is passed down through families or from one person to another, details get lost, or, the person hears it one way, and if they hear it again a couple years later, they remember it different. So I just wanted to put this down, something they can always watch or listen to later. Okay, so again, this is for my son Nicholas. I'm currently 57, and Nicholas is, I don't even know, somewhere around 30, 29, 28 maybe. Born in 89. I don't want to do the math right now. My brother was born in November 68, so at the tail end of 68. So, because my birthday is in June, his birthday is November. Half of the year, I'm 5 months, half a year older than he is. And then the other half of the year, I'm 6 years older than he is. So I was born in 63. By the way, I watch videos by this guy named, I can't remember his name right now, but he uses, right now I'm using Google Maps. I think he uses Google Earth. But I really like his videos. Look him up sometime. He tracks down locations of celebrity deaths or historical events, and uses Google Earth to do that. It's actually pretty cool. Alright, so I was born in, I want to say Whitney Point, but I don't think it was Whitney Point. Let's just go to Binghamton, New York. I can't even remember, because my brother was born in one hospital and I was born in another. I believe my little brother was born in Binghamton General. I think I was born in Johnson City, which is over here. Let me zoom out. So, Binghamton, New York. It's kind of hard to see the dotted lines, but this is Pennsylvania down here. Here's Scranton, where the TV show The Office is based around Scranton. Binghamton is 15 or 20 minutes north of the Pennsylvania border. It's also a 4-hour drive with no traffic down to New York City. I know that from experience. As a matter of fact, it'll take you 3 hours to go from Binghamton to right about down here, and from here to here is about an hour because of traffic, bridges and tunnels and stuff like that. I had to pick up my son at LaGuardia Airport. I left. I considered it would take me 4 hours to get from Binghamton to LaGuardia Airport. And again, like I said, it took me about 3 hours to drive all the way down to somewhere around here. And then it took me an hour because of traffic to get from here to there, wherever LaGuardia Airport is, down here somewhere. Alright. So what I wanted to talk about, here's the Finger Lakes. My I don't know if my son knows anything about the Finger Lakes. I flew my son into Rochester once, which is over here somewhere, Niagara Falls. So, no wait, did I fly him into Buffalo? Yeah, here's Rochester over here. I flew him into Buffalo. And then I think we spent the night. Gosh, I can't even remember now. I picked him up. We went across to the Canada side to see the falls. We got absolutely soaked in about 5 minutes just from the mist of the falls. The wind, I guess, was blowing this way. And we ran up to the edge. We were completely soaked from the mist of the falls. And we got back in my truck and came back across. Incidentally, alright, so from Binghamton to New York City, if you have okay traffic, takes about 4 hours. From Binghamton to Buffalo takes 4 hours. Just thought that was a little crazy. Alright, so I was born in 63. From what I can remember, my dad, I was born in June, and I believe I have papers around here somewhere, but I don't remember exact dates. I was born in Binghamton in June 27th. My dad, I think around April or May, had to go to Toledo, Ohio, and, well, here's Ohio right here, I think. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland. Toledo's around here somewhere. But my dad had to go to Toledo, Ohio, 1 or 2 months before I was born, to go to meat cutting school to be a butcher. I don't know if he got back in time for my birth. But yeah, just a little bit before I was born. Dad was over here in Ohio going to meat cutting school. So my dad was so good. Where the hell is Toledo? I thought it was kind of big, like Columbus or Cleveland. I thought it would just pop right out. I know I can do a search, but oh, there's Toledo, way up here in the corner. By the way, I remember, and this is way off point of what I was talking about, but I remember having a girlfriend in Rochester. While visiting her, I always had like a stuffed nose or earaches, and they told me it was the lake effect. So anyways, I imagine my dad had that over here in Toledo from the lakes. Alright. So anyways, so right about the time I was born, my dad was a bona fide butcher. And he would, I don't know if he was already working for a butcher shop. This is back in 63, so I think there were independent butcher shops as well as the butcher department or the meat department in a grocery store chain. So I don't know if he was working for an independent little butcher store. I even almost can sort of believe that my dad went to butcher school because he was an avid hunter. Every winter he went hunting for white-tailed deer and, whatever else was, in this area. So that may have been a huge choice of why he picked being a butcher. So anyways, so when I was born, here it is. We lived in Port Crane, not Whitney Point. Because I have photos, and maybe I'll insert those later. I would like to, I just don't know how much effort I'm going to put into this. So if I was born in Johnson City, and we lived in Port Crane, because I remember the earliest picture from when I was born. It was a small house next to the lake, and I even think the property got flooded occasionally, like once a year, twice a year, and the river would turn into, like, the ice would get like 3 feet thick, and those, would get pushed up onto the riversides. So we lived somewhere here in Port Crane. Now, a pretty, I don't want to say traumatic event, but some people will have events in their life that they use as I don't know what you want to call it, but things, well, kind of like before and after Christ. We say BC or AC. AC, is that right? BC, before Christ, and events that happened after. When I was 9, my parents separated and divorced when I was 9. So I have memories that I keep separated by, or, I'll remember an event and I can estimate about when that happened by were my parents divorced or were they still together. Because, I don't know about a lot of other people, but memories from before you were 9 or 10, I don't want to say are few, but, you remember more the older you get, kind of thing. So, I think I wanted to talk to my son about education. I was I don't want to say a poor student. I definitely wasn't, I mean, there's so much stuff I want to say that it's hard to not get completely off track. Alright, so there was one rumor, or I don't know if it was a rumor. Okay, so I'm going to make a statement. I sound like a scatterbrain. I'm going to make a statement, and because I was too young to remember it, even I have a hard time believing it. But sort of the direction I was heading with this video to begin with will shed some validity on the statement I'm going to make. Now, I can't remember if it was my dad that told me this. I can't remember if it was my mom that told me this. I can't remember if it was my Aunt Kay or Grandma Twaddell that told me this. But I remember somebody at some time told me that from the age of when I was born to say the age of 10, or 9 when my parents divorced. We had moved 22 times. Now, it sounds like horseshit. However, I can remember distinctly living in at least half a dozen different places between the age of when I could remember stuff and the age of by the time they divorced. Alright, so I started in Port Crane. Alright. And obviously I don't remember a whole lot from there. I don't know if we were there for a year after I was born or 3 years, but I remember that's where I started out. Now, we moved around so much. I'm sure somebody's saying, why the hell did you guys move around so much? Okay, so when my dad became a butcher, he was in charge of the meat case where all the meat is laid out and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm trying to imagine what the meat case must have looked like before my dad worked at, let's say the first place. I think I remember him telling me once that the meat case or the meat department, wherever it was he worked, was averaging $700-800 a week. And after he went to school and became a butcher and yada yada yada, his meat case or meat department was selling about $1,500 a week. So I don't know if the place he was working for was a chain. Again, I can't remember if it was independent stores or grocery store departments, but they started sending him all around the New York State, upstate New York, to either train the butchers that were there, or to go up there, show them what he did, and then move to the next one. And all these places they sent him to, which I'm going to get into, I don't know if he was there a couple months, 6 months. I can't imagine that he'd have to be there for more than a year. But I guess, my mom followed him around to all these different places rather than him staying in, let's say, Port Crane while he went somewhere for 2 months and then came back, and then, again, this is 63, 64, maybe even 65-ish. Well, if I was born in June and he turned his meat case around in 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and then they started shipping them around. So it could have been late 63 or 64 that they started sending them different places. Okay, so I want to leave Ross Park a footnote because I have memories up there. So I can't remember what order some of these places are. Again, I was told we lived 22 different places, but I can only remember, say, half a dozen, 6. As a matter of fact, this one jumps out right there, Santeria Springs. For some reason that sticks out to me. Okay. So here's Binghamton. Here's Shenango Forks, which is halfway to Green, which I had a great aunt. I think the aunt was, great aunt was Laura, who was my dad's mom's sister. So my grandma's sister, Aunt Laura, and her husband, Uncle Robert, I think. Uncle Rogers. I think they had he was a funeral director or something, but he also worked out here in Sydney, Amphenol. At the time, in the 40s, so here's Route 206. Let me go down. Okay, so here's green. It's about 20 miles, 21 miles. Got to go through Bainbridge, get on the freeway or highway up here to Sydney. And right in here is, let's go ahead to satellite view. Right in here is Amphenol. It was also called Bendix. It was also called, I can't remember the other name. It'll come to me in a second. Here it is, Amphenol. And in World War II, they made the gosh, I want to say the distributor, but it wasn't the distributor. It was something else for World War II airplanes, fighters. Damn it, it's not the distributor. It's the alright, it'll come to me later. But World War II. Now, I also worked here for 5 years. And after, from 2003 to 2008. And I would often think about what the hell the road conditions were like. Well, back when my great uncle worked here, I doubt this highway existed. But he would have to drive in some, rickety old 1940s car with, the great big hard tires and everything from Sydney. And if you don't know anything about upstate New York, here's Coventryville, Coventry, Route 41 to Green. Why does this say 41 instead of 206? Okay, it's 41 and 206. Alright. So he'd have to drive from over here all the way back to Green. And this is all hills, up and down, up and down. There's a couple really big hills over in this area. Right after Coventry. Coventry's kind of on top of, Coventry here. There's a big hill right here. You probably can't see from satellite. But after you go through Coventry, you come down around here. I think this right here is one big downhill if you're going from this way to this way. The hill starts right about here, and from like here all the way down to like here is downhill. Like if you're just coasting, you took your foot off the gas and were just coasting, you'd gain at least 10, maybe 15 miles an hour. So this was kind of a speed trap. And then this over here, somewhere over in here, this was a big uphill. Yeah, because this was right close to the uphill. You'd have to come around this. So from about here to about up here, actually all the way to about here was all uphill. Because I remember going to work one day, and there was actually a guy pulled over right at the base of the hill. So right about here, he was pulled over. And I blew by him in my Silverado. And I got up to about here when I caught something like a Cadillac in front of me that was probably going like 10 miles an hour slower than I was. And there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground, which is why this guy was parked down here. And anyways, that was just I remember going to work one day through here, and I was behind somebody. I was a good distance behind them, 5-6 car lengths or more, maybe 7 or 8 car lengths. And the guy was driving straight. I think he went through this intersection, and then I don't know if his tire caught a rut, but he just started spinning in front of me and went in the ditch. And I was on my way to work, so I just had to keep going. Alright, so anyways, I got really, really sidetracked. Let me go back to map view. Alright, so I was born in, what was it? Port Crane. We did have family up here in Green, but we really didn't talk to them that much. Like, I don't even remember Aunt Laura and Uncle Albert from my age of, 1 to probably 20. Alright, so anyways, from Port Crane, I remember a place called, and this is in any order. I remember Watertown, New York, there we go. So where is Watertown in relation to Binghamton? Wow, it's way up here. Okay, so Binghamton is down here, right next to 81, right off of 81. Watertown is way the hell up here. Which would explain, I guess, why Mom moved with them rather than staying in Binghamton. So we lived in Watertown. I can't remember. Sorry. I can't remember if we lived there for 6 months. I can't remember if it was a whole year. It could have been 2 months, for all I know. But I think Watertown, the place we were living in, I don't know if we were renting it or if Dad was trying to buy the house. I can't remember any of that. But the place that we were living in was right next to a brewery. Now, Dad wasn't a drinker. He didn't drink beer, he didn't drink wine, he didn't drink, I think he mostly lived on coffee. Later, he practically lived off RC Cola, but at this time, I think he mostly just drank coffee. And there's a brewery somewhere around here that he lived in, or that we lived by. I do have another memory of that, but it's not really something I can share. Had to do with while we were living next to the brewery, if this is the place, which I'm pretty sure it is. There was a small cafe that my mom would go to for lunch, and I had a few, like half a dozen booths, and it also had like a counter. And I just remember a conversation that my mom had with a couple of her girlfriends that were at the table, and they were talking about my dad. It was complimentary, but I'll just leave it at that. Alright, so I also remember a place called, I think it was, I don't know how to spell it. It was Lowville, so I don't know if that's L-O-W. Yep, Lowville. Okay, so Lowville was just a little bit down the road from Watertown. I remember a place called New Mexico. I think it was New Mexico, New York. New Mexico, maybe it was just Mexico, New York. Alright, so Watertown's up here, Lowville's over here. So yeah, my dad got sent all over upstate New York. Alright, so which would explain us moving around rather than, like if we had lived in Binghamton and he got sent to Endicott, Johnson City, real local locations. But there's like hours away from each other. Alright, so Mexico, New York. I always thought it was New Mexico, New York. Mexico, New York, I have quite a few memories of. I remember we lived on a hill, at the top of a hill. Now, for anybody that hasn't been to upstate New York is very hilly, not mountains. Very different from the mountains we have out here on the West Coast, or in the West, but hills. We lived on the top of a hill. I have no idea what the address was. I just remember we were in Mexico, New York. So, and we lived on a hill like way out here. Like our neighbors were, a mile down the road or half a mile down the road. So we lived in a house on top of a hill. And the traffic would be like, one or two cars going by in an hour. So literally no traffic. So one of the memories I have of our house in New Mexico is next to the driveway there were 3 trees. And I don't think they were fruit trees. I think they're just regular trees, not pine. I don't even think maple, but just 3 nondescript trees. So anyways, what I remember about these trees is my dad with a torch out burning these trees. And so why was my dad burning these trees? And I don't know if they're just East Coast or Northern or what the hell, but there's these worms called tent worms. And they make a nest in trees that looks like a huge, dense spider web. I mean, really big. Well, let's do a tent worms. Tent worm's nest. There you go. That's a tent worm's nest. So these worms would make these huge freaking nests, and I believe it was in all 3 of our trees. Now they say serial killers often in their childhoods will torture and kill small animals, cats, dogs, squirrels, whatever they can get their hands on. I would, and this didn't happen a lot, maybe 2 or 3 times, but I remember one of these little bastards trying to crawl across the driveway. And I was on my bike, or maybe even a tricycle. I was probably 3 or 4 at the time, 3 or 4 or 5. And I remember squishing it with my bike tire and watching all the guts come out one end. And I remember, it didn't like make me feel sick, but it wasn't like I did this 100 times, because there's probably literally 500,000 of, let's just say 100,000 of these in a single tree. So anyways, I ran over this. They're actually kind of cute. I don't remember them looking that cute. But they'd be in the driveway, and I ran over 3 or 4 with my bike tire. And then remember my dad out there with a torch. Here, check out that tree. That's almost literally what our tree looked like. It's just a great big mass of web and just full of these tent worms. So I remember my dad one day out there burning the tent worms out of our trees. Another memory I have is so you can imagine out this far there's no sewer system. Everybody out here has septic tanks. And I believe one year, I remember my parents telling me, when you're at school, use the bathroom at the school. So I imagine our septic tank was full, and the guy couldn't come out and empty it for a couple days or something. Because I remember them telling me, use the bathroom at the school. And for whatever reason, I didn't hear them right, or later on I remembered incorrectly, but I remember coming home from school and being all excited, running up to mom or dad and saying, I didn't use the bathroom all day. and them not being super pleased with me. Like, they weren't mad, but they were like, no, we told you to use the bathroom at school. And for whatever reason, I didn't, and I came home. And so anyways, my third distinct memory of Mexico, New York, so we had, our property was not like this, but similar. Or let me go. Actually, our property was probably more, well, let's say like this. Not with neighbors as close, but our property was, the house was quite far back from the main road. Matter of fact, this is probably somebody's barn. This one's kind of, our property, or the house, was back, maybe not this much, but it was back. Matter of fact, that's another barn. That's the house. Another house and a barn. So let's just say our house was kind of like this, but I think it was actually back just a little bit farther. And the trees my dad had to burn were like over here. But you'd have to cross the road to get to the mailbox. The mailbox was on this side of the road. But we didn't have neighbors like within, let's say, this vicinity. Like, our closest neighbor was a little bit farther than this on this side, and we were on top of a hill, so the hill went down right here. So our next closest neighbor this way may have been, like way down here. So you would come up and crest the hill, like, let's say, like right around here. So actually, if I was standing out in the middle of the road, being 4 or 5 or 6, and somebody was coming up this hill doing, let's say, 60, they'd really have to jump on the brakes to not hit me. So anyways, so I think I was playing outside, and the mailman came, put something in the mailbox, and left. And I wandered across the road because, like I said, you'd see 1 or 2 cars pass by in an hour. There was like literally almost no traffic. So I wandered across the road and opened the mailbox. Now, from my mom's point of view, she said she was in the house doing dishes or vacuuming or whatever girls do. And all of a sudden, she heard a car drive by, and then she heard me screaming my head off. So she came running out the house thinking I got hit by the car. She said, but I was standing next to the mailbox. Well, what I didn't know, being 5 or 6, is there was a small wasp's nest inside the mailbox. And when I pulled the mail out, if I was 5 years old, I was 2.5, 3 feet tall. So I pulled the mail out. I must have disrupted the wasp nest, and they came out and they were stinging me in my head and my face. She was thankful I wasn't hit by a car, but I think she had to scoop me up and take me. I don't know if she took me to the hospital or not. I don't remember that much. But I do distinctly remember opening the mailbox and getting stung in the head, shoulders, face. There was only maybe 3 or 4 or 5 wasps. It wasn't like a huge nest. It was just a small nest. But that's something I remember from a very, very early age. So that, this was all before my little brother wasn't born until 68, late 68, November of 68. So this was even before, he was around. Alright, so let me go back to map view. So I distinctly remember Watertown, Lowville, Mexico. Now I can remember. No, I can't. There is Oswego, but there's also a place down by Binghamton called Owego. That's Oswego. And down here, we're going to find, where the hell's Binghamton? There's Sydney. Okay. Here's Binghamton. Owego, right there. So it's Oswego without the S. I do remember us going to a racetrack, but I can't remember if it was Oswego or Owego. And I was able to ride around in the pace car, because I remember the guy driving the pace car. It was a convertible, so I was up on my knees, turned around so I could see the race cars following us. And I remember the driver of the car sort of getting mad at me because he said something like, don't get your feet on the seat or something like that. I can't remember. It may have been a dirt track. It may have been asphalt, but it may have been dirt. So if I had dirt on my shoes and he was yelling at me for, not yelling at me, but, he was saying, get your feet off the seat or something of that nature. But looking back on this now, because I also remember, now it must have been a pretty big track. So in other words, it wasn't a quarter mile. It must have been a half mile or bigger. Let's see if we can. That looks like a school track. No, Tioga County Fair. So I don't know if this was for horses. But I also remember, I think after I got out of the pace car, like let's say the pace car, this isn't the track, but let's say I got out of the pace car and the pace car pulled into the middle, where the pits were, and these are the stands. they got me out of the pace car, and then with the cars coming around for either another yellow flag lap or coming to the green, they walked me across the track so I could go sit in the stands with my parents. But, I couldn't see them doing that now. Here's another, but this one also looks too small. Yeah, it's definitely not a racetrack. But it was, what I remember specifically about it, it was sprint cars. Skyview Drags, I've been here. As a matter of fact, they built this right around 2002 or 3. I'll say 2003. Because I think I've taken my Camaro down this track. Matter of fact, before this was built, we moved back to upstate New York in 2002. So I believe in 2002 they were having their drags over here on the circle track. This right here was like staging area. This right here may have been this might have been the start finish line for the drag racing. Either this line or this line. I imagine this line. I think this one's for they'll throw the green for circle track cars between here and here. So I think this may have been the start finish line for their drag racing. And you would just drag from there to there. And then they built this over here. I also believe sometime between 2003 and 2010, they had a jet car here. And the jet car melted the front of the building. I also remember from Green's way over here somewhere. Yeah, that's 38. There's the racetrack we're talking about. Here's West Shenango, so Green. Well, let me put this right down in the corner. There's 81. So wow. Alright, here's the track. Let's put that right there. Shenango Forks, so Green is even farther up here in this corner. And I think it takes, well, there's Whitney Point on 206. So you take 206, and this is the 12. Where the 206 and 12 meet is Green, so it's way up here in this corner. I think it took me 45 minutes to an hour to drive from there all the way down to here. Or maybe it was an hour and a half, I can't remember. But I do remember somewhere, that's the high school, somewhere over here is a racetrack. Here's another one. Tioga Downs, I think that's horse racing. But there is another racetrack over here somewhere. But I think I remember it being a pretty small track too. Alright. So, moving around so much, I mean, I don't ever remember being in the same school system. Sometimes only 6 months. Maybe occasionally a year and a half. But, that young of an age, throwing a kid around from school to school to school. I was always, always, always the new kid. I thought our Lowville, Watertown, Mexico, there's probably a couple more I can remember. I'm just not thinking of them right now. I can remember I remember we went into Canada side a lot, so it must have been when we were in Watertown. As a matter of fact, does this say Thousand Islands anywhere? Or Hart Island, Thousand Island Park? Somewhere on the Canadian side, there's a castle I remember us going to. There really is 1,000 islands. Lawrence River. Okay. Somewhere in this area, there's a place called Hart Island, where, some rich guy bought an island, a small island, and started building a castle for it. Just Google Hart Island, H-A-R-T. He started building a place for him and his wife, and I think she, after they moved her into this island, because he was building it for her, 6 months later she died or something, and then he just stopped construction. But it's somewhere. I remember us going to that, because even at that age I wasn't a big fan of water and boats. We have pictures of some castle or some fortress over here somewhere. I could probably remember the name of it if I saw it. So anyways, I wasn't, just bouncing around from school to school. I was never an A student or even a B student. At the most, I was like a C student. And let me backtrack a little bit to when we were at Watertown. No, it'd be Mexico. Fort Drum. Alright, so when we were living in, here's Watertown, when we were living in Mexico, New York, and I said that the trees looked like they had huge spider webs in them. Now, Rome, Utica, Syracuse, I don't know if people can be born with a parent's what do you call them, fears or phobias. So, and this is another story that was told to me. I can't remember if my grandma told it to me, my mom's mom, Grandma Hatch, or maybe my mom told it to me. I think it was Grandma Hatch that told me. She had told me, alright, so Grandma Hatch, if I was born in 63, let's say mom was, let's just estimate mom was 25. 40, 38. Well, dad was born in 38, so I think mom must have been born around 43, maybe. So my grandma tells me, according to my grandma, and I believe this took place in Binghamton, that they were at a park in Binghamton in the 40s, and mom was really young, like 5 or 6 or 7, at this park. She didn't say which park. She just said at a park. And some guy just walked up to her. Now this sounds like horseshit, and even I have a hard time believing it, but this is just what was told to me. A guy walks up to her, and he had a paper bag. She didn't say, was it a full-size grocery bag, or was it a bag big enough to hold a bottle of liquor? She just said a paper bag. And she said it was full of spiders. And he just walked up to her and dumped it on her head. So that was why my mom was so afraid of spiders. Like, terrified. Like, my grandma also, for I think she used to do it for like 3, 4, 5 years. There was a magazine called Ranger Rick. And it was like a nature kind of magazine for kids. And I think my grandma resubscribed that to me, for a good 5, 10 years, whatever, when I was a kid. So I'd open up Ranger Rick, and there'd be a picture of a spider in it, and I'd go show my mom, and she would literally freak out. And so I don't know, like, can you inherit a phobia or whatever? But, or maybe it was through her reaction that I learned to be afraid of spiders. Which brings me to when Nicholas was born. He was maybe 3 or 4. And his mom thought it was funny. We occasionally did some stuff to our kids that we thought was funny, that we look back on now and go, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But I remember Nicholas once was out in the yard, and he picked up like a ladybug, and he had it on his hand, and he went to show his mom. And she'll probably tell you, if you remind her of this, she'll probably tell you I'm full of shit. But I remember it because it kind of pissed me off a little bit. But you'd picked up some, nondescript bug. It was either a ladybug or, it wasn't a disgusting bug like a cockroach. It may have even been a roly-poly. It was just, a bug. You picked up this bug and you went and showed your mom. And playfully, now, Nicholas is probably 3 or 4. But she playfully freaked out. Like, made it seem like, oh my God, you just picked up, some poisonous thing that's, But she gave a little bit of a scream and just freaked out a little bit. She laughed afterwards because, Nicholas's reaction was terror. Like, he thought he was holding, something that was going to kill him or something. I don't know. as I was witnessing this, because yeah, I know that she was playing. I know that she wasn't seriously freaking out. I knew that she did it to trick him into thinking he should be afraid of it. But at that moment, I also thought about, what if this is the exact moment that a phobia of his own is created of bugs? And he's a little boy. I didn't want him to be afraid of bugs. So that's why, it pissed me off a little bit. I don't think I said anything because I was too busy thinking about what was going on, and I didn't want him to be afraid of bugs, but I didn't want him licking bugs either. So I've spent a lot of time in Binghamton. So anyways, let's see. There was something else. Wasn't there something else I wanted to reference? Alright, so let's fast forward to so I was in school. This was also when my parents were still together, so it was before my age of 9. So I could have been 7, I could have been 8. I remember I was in school because summer break was coming up. And both my parents worked. Mom and Dad both worked. Well, somewhere out here, now we did have a place, a farm. Well, we lived on farm property. My dad wasn't necessarily a farmer, although we did have a huge freaking pig. Now I can't remember if it was Castle Creek or if it was Shenango Valley. Oh, that's Whitney Point. I went the wrong way. Up to 12. Shenango Forks. I can't remember if it was Castle Creek or if it was Shenango Forks that we lived in. But we lived on the top of a hill, or top of a hill. Here's Shenango Forks. Here's Castle Creek. Both of which are just a hop, skip, and a jump to Binghamton down here. Shenango Bridge. So it was either Castle Creek or Shenango Forks. And you would drive up the road. I remember one winter, it wasn't like a 45-degree angle. Well, when you come to a stop sign, a four-way stop, and you have 45-degree angles to make your left or right turns, it wasn't a four-way stop. It was just a bend in the road, a 45-degree bend that you could probably go, the corner was probably rated at 35 miles an hour, and it was uphill. And I think it was this is kind of like a 45-degree, if this was more going this way. But it was a rural road. So I remember it was winter. There was probably fresh snow on the ground, and we were trying to get back home. It was uphill when we hit this bend, and I just remember my mom doubting my dad's driving that we were gonna make it home. And I remember my dad's reaction was kind of, this is gonna be fun. And we eventually made it up and around the corner and got back to the house. But it was farm property, so there was a house with a big barn kind of right next to it. And where the hell am I? I'm not even paying attention to. Okay, here's Snaggle Porks. So in the barn, my dad had a pig. This pig, now at this time, I'm probably, let's just say 7 or 8. And at the time, considering my size, this pig to me was as big as a Volkswagen bus. This thing was fucking huge, right? And it must have been like a super friendly pig, because anytime anybody came into the barn, it would get all excited. Like there was a heavy wooden, I don't want to say fence, but its enclosure was kind of like half of a, what you'd picture a horse stall to be like inside a barn, and the front part of it was just more or less of a, I don't want to say fence, unless you think of really heavy wooden fence kind of thing, to where my dad would come in with like a bucket of slop or, you know, leftovers or whatever, and he would just throw the slop into the pig's bucket or whatever it was, right? But the pig would jump up on top of the railing and just start squealing, because my dad would rub it behind the ears or scratch its sides, or, you know. And I remember one time I went in with him, but I always stayed a couple feet behind him. The pig was like getting overly excited, and I think was threatening to, or its actions were threatening the integrity of the pen, that, you know, the front part of the fence, like it was, like it made a snapping noise or something, like it was gonna break. And because the pig was just excited for some attention. And I remember my dad getting mad at the pig for, you know, because it's damn near gonna break out of its thing. My dad grabbed a shovel and started hitting the pig on the head, which seemingly did nothing to the pig. Anyways, later that year, I think Dad, we had pig for Thanksgiving. But I remember, as a matter of fact, I do remember coming home on the school bus. Where's Binghamton? Here's 81. Okay, here's Binghamton. So, and it had to be, you know, maybe all this was Castle Creek, because our school bus, so I don't know if it was this, somewhere along here, I think the school bus was going up this road. And because I think the school bus would have to go under a couple of these freeway bridges, and the school bus was driving up this road, and I remember there was a section very similar to this, where there was a driveway and then grass and then another driveway similar to this, and this area here would be like a 3-foot ditch. 3 feet? Yeah, about 3 feet. 2.5, 3 feet ditch. A pretty deep ditch, right? Ditch, not dish. And again, it's winter, and I can't remember if maybe somebody pulled in front of the bus or the bus hit black ice, but the bus ended up in the ditch, nose first. And I remember the cops being there and the ambulances being there. I remember, because school buses don't have seatbelts. I remember I banged my nose on the seat in front of me. I can't remember if it was bleeding or not, but I just remember everybody making a fuss. Are you okay? Are you okay? And looking at my nose, and I think other kids had more serious injuries than I did, but I remember that. And the parents showed up because the bus was in the ditch. So parents were called, and parents showed up, and everybody eventually got home. So maybe it wasn't Shenango Forks that I remember. Maybe it was Castle Creek, because for some reason I just remember it being near the freeway. And Castle Creek does sound pretty familiar to me. But I also spent, 20 years. I spent 20 years in the Binghamton area. Like I said, I was born in Port Crane. Although we had family in Greene, I don't really remember us going up there. Grandma, for quite a while, lived on Robinson Street. And at the end on the north side, if I'm remembering correctly, on the north side of Robinson Street was or maybe the next block over, was a small cinema. Alright, so let's see. There's 17. Let's try this. Robinson Street, Binghamton. Alright, well actually, okay, so I'll come back to this. Robinson Street. Here's Moeller. We'll go down. Here's Robinson right here. Calvin Coolidge. Alright. Fudgy's Takeout. Church. Maybe she lived on Riverside. Bigelow. Gaylord. If I could find Calvin Coolidge, I would think Howland. I remember this area for some reason. Mason, Gaylord, Bigelow. Well, one of these, the bus stop. There should be a CVS or something down here. There it is, CVS. Weller. Howard Ave. That's kind of funny. Don't remember that. Mason. Alright, so one of these, I'm going to guess and say maybe it was one of these. Maybe it was the old... So I thought Robinson went this way. One of these may have been the old cinema. Possibly this one. Is there a street view kind of thing? Yep, look at that right there. Wow. It's pretty good considering I haven't been there for 45, 50 years. So I believe my grandma lived down this street. And this would also be before my parents divorced. So again, I was 6 or 7. Matter of fact, if you look up what year Old Yeller came out, because my parents, my mom and dad, let me come in here. They paid for my ticket, and Old Yeller was playing. And I remember sitting in the back row all by myself, like they paid for my ticket, let me go in, and they probably went back down to grandma's house or whatever, went grocery shopping or whatever. So I was in here, I was watching Old Yeller, and Old Yeller was not a favorite movie of mine, so I don't remember a lot about it. I remember something about a bull or a cow. I don't even remember anything about the damn dog. It's about a dog, right? But my parents told me later that they did whatever they did, or the movie was supposed to be over in 5 or 10 minutes. And so they came back to get me, but the movie was still playing. And they peeked in to see if, I was fucking around, running up and down the aisles or not. But they said no, I was sitting in the back row, all by myself. And I can't remember what happened in the movie, but they said I was crying. Like maybe that's when the dog died or whatever. But that's how I remember this place. I don't know if it was called a Cameo back then. I mean, this would have had to have been 66, 67. Is there even a date anywhere on the building? So the movie house was here. So maybe Grandma lived down Mason Street, which I do have pictures of. My 3rd birthday in Grandma's backyard. Now I think her house had some sort of garage in the back, even though she didn't have a car. She was obviously renting. So this could have been it. With I remember the neighbor kids were all redheads. I was a redhead when I was, especially in my younger years, like before high school. My hair looked like fire engine red. So this may have been my grandma's house right here. There was a chute on the side of the house that they would deliver coal in, and she had a great big coal burning furnace in the basement. But we had my 3rd birthday in the backyard right here. A lot of my cousins and my Aunt Kay moved to California. I'm going to guess and say 68, 69, maybe 70, maybe even 71. But at this time, at my 3rd birthday, which would have been 1966, all my cousins were still in Binghamton. And they all celebrated my 3rd birthday here. I do remember, and I can't remember why or with who, I went to this church. I think Grandma Twaddell maybe convinced my mom and dad, because I believe I went alone, or I was dropped off, and went to Sunday school here for, who knows, 2, 3 months, maybe 6 months. But I believe that was right here. Maybe that's why I remember this this particular street. I do not remember it being named Howard, though, which is something you would think I would remember. Now, I can't remember where we lived when my parents divorced. I do remember and have pictures of our blue trailer, which I believe was a darker blue. We lived in a couple trailers, but I can't remember if they were the same one, different places, or if they were two separate trailers. But I do remember us living in trailers at least 2 times. So anyways, when my parents did divorce, we were in a darker blue trailer with white trim. I remember Dad had a Blazer with the Eagle sticker package on it. My dad was super proud of that truck. It was like, I think it may have been his first brand new vehicle that he purchased from the dealership. He really, really liked that Blazer. And in the divorce, my mom got the trailer and the Blazer, which kind of really, really pissed my dad off. So because within 6 months, of course, she couldn't make the payments on either and lost both. She lost the trailer and the Blazer. So my parents divorced in 73. And it was before June, because I remember being 9. I turned 10 in June. And I wasn't 10 yet. I was still 9. So, parents divorced. Dad said, I'm moving to California. And he asked me if I was 9, then my little brother was 3. And he asked me if I wanted to stay or go with him. And I can't remember why, but I just said, I'm going with you. I went with my dad. So Dad had bought some used car. I believe it was I remember it was white, and I think it may have been a Valiant. And we went from Binghamton and now looking at this map, this right here is really interesting. I'm gonna have to look at this later. But anyways, we drove from Binghamton up here. Now I remember going by, we stopped at Merrimack Caverns. I don't know where that is right now. Well, there we go. Oops. Merrimack Caverns. Okay. I remember on our... Wow, I even sort of remember the parking lot. So where exactly is this? Where is it in relation to New York? Oh wow, it's way down here. Alright, so here's Binghamton, right around here. So the route we took, I wonder if we came across this way down through Ohio We either continued over here to Indiana, or we came down here to Cleveland and took 71 down to Columbus over to Indiana, and then took the 70 down to the 44. So we went to Merrimack Caverns, and in Merrimack Caverns, I remember them saying something about Jesse James treasure, or this is where the gang would hold up. I also remember my dad wasn't very happy about, now this is 73, and my dad's car was parked somewhere in the parking lot. And when we came out, we went to the tour. And when we came out, somebody from the gift shop had put Merrimack Cavern bumper stickers on every car in the parking lot. And my dad was not real happy about that. Why do I remember Merrimack Caverns so much? Alright, so I'm 9 years old and I can't swim. None of our houses that we lived at, as far as I know, had, a lot of upstate New York properties will have ponds because there's no fire system to bring water out to, all the farms and all the rural houses. So they'd have a pond. So the fireman would get there, drop a line in the pond, and use the pond water to put the fire out. But as far as I know, none of the places that we ever lived in had a pond, or even one close enough nearby. So I never really had any interest in swimming, learning how to swim. So whenever I was near water, I was a little uneasy, especially if it's water you can't really see through. Like if you stand in it up to your knees and you can't see your toes. I don't know. I must have had a really vivid imagination or something. So anyways, inside the caverns, I remember we came to an area where there was a boat ride. Guided tour. And I see something up here. Caverns. I don't want to care about the zip line. Gift shop. So here it is. Well, this isn't exactly where I'm talking about, but in some part in the tour, you have to get in these canoes. So here's the Jesse James thing. You have to get in these canoes. And so I already have some sort of fear of water, right? So you have to get in these little canoes. And they're not super deep, they're just like a regular canoe. And what freaked me the hell out, I mean, I was absolutely terrified. I'm not finding anything over here on the side. Alright, let me go back up here at the top. Shoot. That's not what I wanted to do. Damn it. So this isn't exactly what I remember. So you'd get in this canoe, and all right, see how this ceiling is only a few feet from the water. Where you get in the canoe, or from what I remember, the ceiling was a good 15-20 feet higher. And so if you're in a well lighted area, because of the reflection, it looked like it was 20 feet deep. Whereas if you get over here where it's not well lit, you can actually see the bottom. Alright. But where we were, it was very well lit, and it was a very high ceiling. And so it looked incredibly deep. And I wanted nothing to do with it. But we had to, I think it was part of the tour. So I was kind of forced to get in this boat. And I just remember, yeah. Of course, it was just, I realize now it's just an optical illusion and, this, that, and the other thing. But at the age of 9, I wasn't having any of it. But I kind of had to, it was part of the tour, I had to go through it. So I remember that on the way out. I remember somewhere along the line between on our trip, we pulled over to like some gas station or something, and Dad had bought a loaf of bread and maybe a thing of mustard, and I think he just wanted tuna fish, but he had bought like canned salmon or something like that. So he made me a sandwich, which I thought was tuna fish, and I'm eating it, and there's something not tuna fishy about it. Like there was, well, I think what I know now is it was salmon bones, like they're little like a real soft bone, like not the kind of bone that you swallow and you choke to death on. It was like a really soft bone or something, and I believe it's salmon. It might be something else. But I remember I didn't like that at all. So, I was in the back seat, Dad was in the front seat, and I picked out all these bones out of what I thought was tuna fish, because the tuna fish part was good. But I picked out all these bones, and there had to have been, let's say I had 2 sandwiches, there had to be at least 6 of these fish bones, edible fish bones, and I stuffed them down between the seats in the back, because I just didn't have, I don't know, I think it was the texture. I think I knew it was a fish bone, and at that point you're raised, don't eat fish bones because you'll choke to death or you'll die somehow. So I knew it was a fish bone, even though it was edible. Just even the words soft fish bone has zero appeal to me. So I picked them out of the sandwich and stuffed them down behind the seat in the car. These are just things I remember driving from New York to California the first time. I also remember we stopped at, it would have to be somewhere around here. So I believe at some point we came down to the 40 and we're shooting across here. Let's look up petrified forest. There we go. Route 66. How far? Okay, there's the 40 right there. Where is it in relation to? Jesus, it's right out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Still have no idea where the hell it is. Well, I imagine it's gotta be somewhere around. I still have no idea where it is. Albuquerque, okay. Okay, so here's Havasu. Here's Kingman. Flagstaff, which for those of you who don't know, and even I can't remember, either Flagstaff or Albuquerque have a really high elevation. Or maybe both. Maybe both or maybe one or the other, I can't remember. But when you're driving through these areas at night at a really high elevation, you know, it can be anywhere between. It can be 90 degrees, 100 degrees, but at night in Flagstaff or Albuquerque, it can get down to like 40s, 50s, low 50s or 40s, which is a funny story later. So anyways, we stopped at Petrified Forest. See, my dad took me to a lot of places. As a matter of fact, I also remember some Lincoln monument. We'll look that up in a bit. So anyways, so we got off the freeway here. My dad's Valiant. And then this might be, so you pay to get through a gate right there, entrance station. And then you drive through all this. And I can't remember if this was here or not in the 70s. But I think at some point we did pull over and stop. And whatever trees, I think it was just trees. If you want to know more about it, you'll have to research it. Because it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of trees in the area. But the trees, for some reason, and I don't know if it was 100 years ago or 10,000 years ago, turned to stone. The pieces of trees or existing logs or whatever turned to stone. So anyways, I remember I didn't see him, but Dad had picked up a couple pieces of petrified trees. I mean, little pieces, like the size of a quarter. And he stuffed these in his pocket. I didn't see him do it. But as you approach the exit, somewhere down here, this is a pretty interesting landscape. So when you're coming down near the exit, there's a sign that says that at their discretion or whatever, they can search your car. Because apparently it's been a problem, people stealing, petrified artifacts. So I remember we passed this sign that said, they can search your car at their will. And, God damn it. Christ, this area is huge. Or what the hell? Oh, okay. So what the hell? You come in there. Because I thought I remembered it as, and maybe it's different today than it was 40 years ago. I thought you came in the entrance, drove around, and then it brought you back to, like one side you go in, one side you come out. Like this was the enter and this was the exit. And sometime before the exit, because I don't remember it being like this. I remember you came out and came in the same place. So there was a sign that said they can search your car if they want to. And like I said, I didn't see him picking the pieces up, but all of a sudden he pulls out of his pocket like a handkerchief. He sticks his arm out the window and he releases the objects that were in the handkerchief. So Dad had picked up a few pieces that were, about quarter size. And then he dumped them out on the road coming back out. I remember as a kid not being that, ooh, look, a tree that turned to stone. That was interesting for about 2 minutes. And then I was done with it. So, yeah, if this was closer, I mean, from Havasu, this is probably a good 6-hour drive at least. It would be something I'd like to go back to, check out again. Yeah, it's quite a distance. Because here, where'd it go? Well, it's up here somewhere. Where the hell is, well, there's the Grand Canyon. And Kingman. Alright, so here's Havasu. Havasu to the Grand Canyon, I believe, is a 4-hour drive. I think it's a 1-hour drive from Havasu to Kingman. So, and I'd really like to go to Grand Canyon again now that I'm a photographer. But I can't bring myself for that 4-hour drive. And hell, the petrified forest, probably another 4 hours past that. What else did we see? We saw, I don't know if it's going to be here. Lincoln. We had drove past, and I have a picture of Lincoln Memorial. I can't see what that is, because it wasn't the one in DC. It was a much smaller monument kind of thing. Circle Monument Ave. No, that's not it. I don't know. So, me and Dad went to New York, we drove out to California. So the very first time Went from New York to Los Angeles County in my dad's white Valiant. And when we arrived there, we were probably there 2 weeks. And he had me call mom, like, every day or every other day. And I think after about 2 weeks, Mom asked me on the phone, she goes, "Do you want to come back?" And I think I missed her, and I said yes, and she had legal custody of me, so she told my dad, Howard wants to come back, put him on a plane. And that was probably the first time I flew out of LAX. And that was the first of many plane trips back and forth. My dad probably spent, I don't even want to know what he spent on plane fare, as many times as I've been back and forth just on a plane. So now I believe, it's hard for me to believe she lost a trailer and a Blazer within 2 weeks. So I don't remember coming back and us living in a trailer. My earliest recollection of coming back the first time, we lived on Moeller Street, which was right up here. In fact, I can probably pinpoint the exact house we were on. Because I remember this was in the back. It very well may have been this house right here. So I remember... Now, wait a minute. Hold on a tick. Could this have been before the 17 and 81 went through here? Because from what I remember, there was the track. There may have been a football field here, but it wasn't, it was just a grass field. But I also remember a field over here. So I'd be interested to find out when the 17 and the 81 went through here, when this part was built. Because from what I remember, there was a field right here, like a grass field, maybe even like a not soccer, but field hockey. I can remember people coming over here with golf balls and hitting golf balls around. I think I even chased down golf balls for one guy. He probably gave me like $5 or something. And he'd hit golf balls, and then I'd run out and pick them up, bring them back to him. But I distinctly remember a field over here. So I'd be very interested to know when this part was built right here. So, Moeller Street. And I believe in the 60s or 50s, this was a high school. I think my dad went to high school right here. Alright, so Moeller. So I think it was... I remember the driveway was at least 2... Which one did I say I thought it was? I want to say, well, I remember it was 2 stories because they rented the top story out. Well, I think they rented both stories out, the bottom floor and the top floor, and we lived in the, mom was renting the top floor. But I remember it was 2 driveways next to each other. Because one driveway was maybe a foot higher than the neighbor's driveway, and there's a little bit of dirt between them. Because I think I had gotten some flower seeds in a cereal box, and they were snapdragons. And the only reason I remember that is it's kind of a cool name for a flower. Like if I had gotten pansies, I probably wouldn't remember this. But I got a package of seeds, flower seeds. They were called snapdragons. I didn't tell mom about it or nothing because I didn't even think they'd grow. But I planted them in the dirt between the driveways. Just another little known fact. Nicholas might know this, but Jack may not, my brother. Out here in Green, here's 81. So, which one is 12? Okay. Snaggle Forks. Damn, Green's way the hell out here. Alright, Green. Alright. Aunt Laura and Uncle Roger. This is the forklift. Raymond Forklift. Here's the high school. So this is kind of a big forklift center dealer. And this was the house Dad bought. So we moved when Dad retired in 2002. He wanted to retire and do hunting. So we moved back to upstate New York and I went with him because I just love upstate New York. I love 4 seasons. I like green in the spring, summer, and fall. Well, spring and summer. And I like snow. You know, everything covered in white in the winter months. I'm comfortable in the cold down to the 30s. When it gets cold enough that it's in the 20s or colder, then, you know, I'm cranking up the heat, you know. But if it was mid-30s, hold on. If it was mid-30s, I'd go out for a walk. I like I'm not a fashionista, but I like NFL apparel. I like buying different kinds of clothes. So you live in an area where you need clothes, you know, as opposed to like California, Arizona. I spent most of my school years when not in school, when I'm on my time, no shirt and Levi's button-up jeans. You know, on a Saturday or Sunday or after school, 3 o'clock, you'd hardly ever see me with a shirt on, just because, you know, it was always too damn hot for a shirt. But back east, you know, you have light jackets for fall. You have your winter jackets. Then you're in the spring, you're back into a light jacket. And And then in the summer, you're in shorts and tank tops or just a t-shirt. During the winter months, you have sweatshirts, hoodies, you know. So I'd have lots of clothes that I couldn't wear on the West Coast because it was too damn hot, as opposed to in upstate New York. You know, eventually I got to wear everything that I had. So I liked cold weather. So anyways, Dad and I moved back to upstate New York. We stayed with my Aunt Kay, which was over here. Baptist Church. Aunt Kay's house was right here. So now this was Uncle Albert's and Aunt Laura's house. And as far as I know, they lived here. They lived in this house since like the 30s. All the time. Now, Uncle Albert worked. Albert Rogers. Rogers was their last name. Uncle Albert worked in Sydney at Amphenol for, I think, 18, 19, 20 years. They also, him and his brother, ran a mortuary business here in Greene. But as far as I know, they lived here decades, which is kind of strange to me, knowing that between when I was born and the age of 9, you know, I lived in, 10 different places at the very least. Even if the rumor or the story that I was told that we had moved 22 times in 2 years, even if that isn't true, I know that in those first 9 years, I lived in, at least 6, 7, 8 different places. So spending decades in one residence just seems really, really strange to me. Not strange in a bad way. Sometimes I feel like, in a way, I was fortunate that I got to live in East Coast, West Coast, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona. Throughout my lifetime, I've lived in 4 or 5 different states. And I had friends, if I was at a particular school for any length of time, I had friends in high school that still lived in the same house they were born in. And now I also had a counselor tell me, I think it was a marriage counselor, I had a counselor tell me that because of moving around constantly, that it gave me security issues or something, which kind of makes sense. So there's pros and cons to all of it. I had friends that were jealous that I'd be in New York and I was known as the kid from California, and I'd be in California and I was known as the new kid from New York. So, but so everything has pros and cons. All right, so let me tell you this. All right, so this was a basement and 2-story house. This was a garage, which before it was a garage, or before it was being used as a garage for a motor car, an automobile, I believe it was a horse carriage barn. This down here, I'm not sure what that is. This down here is an old chicken coop. And during World War II, Aunt Laura um, and Uncle Albert were working here, of course, living here. And during World War II, they would have something called blackouts, where everybody in the town, including the street lamps and stores or whatever, everybody in town, like I think they'd ring a bell or have like an air raid horn or something, probably at the fire station. Uh, the horn would sound and everybody had to turn their lights off, or at the very least, they might have had blackout curtains or shutters or whatever, but you know, your residents could not emit any light, and that was in practice for, if there were ever any enemy planes, like the Japanese or the Germans, flying over, if everything was blacked out, they couldn't target. Not that I don't think they would target civilian houses, even if that ever did come to pass. But, if they did, well, maybe it was just a way of hiding the village entirely by emitting no light. But at the same time, Aunt Laura said, because I talked with her while she was still around, I think she passed somewhere around, and I'm going to guess, 2004 or 5. She was an old bird. She was probably born in the 20s. So I think she died in her 90s. Anyways, so in the 40s, when they'd have these blackout drills, from the house, she could hear the chickens. So she would grab a book and walk down, I guess by candlelight or whatever, or maybe she didn't bring a book, but she would come down and just talk to the chickens so they wouldn't make so much noise. Apparently left on their own, the chickens will like talk to each other or whatever, just make chicken noises. But if somebody's around them and constantly talking, the chickens don't make no noise. I thought that was a pretty cool story. There was also, alright, so here's the Shenango River. And everybody, well, not everybody, but most people have heard of the Erie Canal. Well, there was also a canal in the Binghamton area. So the canal right here, you can see is Canal Street. The canal went through here. I'm guessing the canal was about street width wide. The canal, and you can probably Google this or look it up on Wiki somewhere. I think the canal operated in, I'm just going to guess and say 1850s or 1870s. I'm not sure if it was still in operation in the 1900s, but the canal came down through here, and this is the grocery store, the only one in town. And over here, somewhere in the Shenango River, there are abutments. Wait a minute, let me go back over here to the store. Oh, there they are. So the canal came down here and probably went this way. Fucker. And came across here. I have a really good picture. There's still parts of the canal, like this might be it right here. Might be, I don't know for sure. No, that's the railroad. Never mind. But a canal went through town here. Now, this is where I get a little confused. Now, I don't know. So we had a canal over here. Alright. I don't know if boats actually used this river. Now, obviously, this bridge wasn't here yet. There was some sort of bridge, but I don't know how much higher it may or may not have been than this bridge. Or who knows, maybe if the canal operated in the 1850s and 70s, maybe there wasn't a bridge here yet, but I'm pretty sure there was at the very least a wooden bridge that went across here. Or maybe it's just not related to this here at all. But I was told, but I have to imagine it is related. Alright, so I was told that the canal, like passengers would ride, like it wasn't just commercial boats on the canal. There were passenger canals also, I guess. And they would stop here for like overnight. So that's why we have this the Sherwood Inn, which is from it's not going to tell me here, but it's a historical, First Hotel. I can't read the rest of it. What's this? No. Can we move to it? Oh yeah, we can. Okay. But it's not going to process anymore. Alright. So, First Hotel in green. And, so people would get off the canal up here and stay here at the Sherwood Inn. But also in, and again, I'm not going to say slave times. This corner house right here, that's now a bed and breakfast. This house has like secret passage. I don't know, passageways or secret slaves that were seeking their freedom. What the hell was it called? Like Freedom Railroad or something like that, because the railroad is right across the street. So maybe that's what this is related to. The railroad is right here. Here's the green, which is a really cool looking building. But there's no pictures assigned to it. So the railroad's right here. So when people would, slaves would come through here, the Underground Railroad, that was what it's called. This place has like secret small rooms or whatever that would hide slaves in it. Alright. So this is turning out to be, I meant to do, well, whatever. Alright, so another thing, and this is also a little bit, I don't want to say hard to. By the way, if you're ever in or around the green, and if it's still there, I don't know if it's still there or not, there's a pizza shop right here. I believe it's called Vinny's. No, it's right here. I believe it's this white roof right here. Oh, there it is, right there. Tony T's. Best pizza I've ever had. Right here, this little building right here. cheese pizza. Absolutely fantastic. Alright, so we have Canal Street. Okay. Now, when you go up here, this is Route 12. This is 206. And this right here is a really steep uphill. Okay, so you go up the hill, and if it's the right time of year, you'll see dozens of deer in this area. Go up over this, there'll be another little creek, or a creek, okay? So we know we're on the right place. Now somehow, and we come up here, go over the creek, and there'll be, should be a blinking yellow light right here. So you make this right, and I believe this is the farm. There it is right there, what I'm looking for. So somehow this was an ice house. They'd go down to the creek and use chainsaws or whatever to bring up big ass pieces of ice. I imagine a horse and a sleigh of some sort. But this is 2 stories. I had digital pictures of this, but I think I lost them, because that was like 4 or 5 computers ago, and somehow, somewhere they got lost. But this was 2 or 3 stories, and you can see like that was one of the floors right there. The floors are all gone, but you can tell where the floors were. And so they'd bring ice into here, and then I think they'd pack it in hay. Hay is some kind of insulator for keeping things cold, I guess. And then from here, again, I'm imagining horses and sleighs of some sort. They'd put the ice onto wagons and bring the ice, I think, down into Green and put it on the canal. And through this canal, this ice would be taken down into New York City. I imagine it was also used locally, but I was also told or read somewhere that a lot of the ice would go to New York City via the canal right here, which I think is pretty cool. So the canal, so we saw it start, well, not start, but in Green. It's on this side of the river, and then right around the grocery store, here's the great grocery store right here, it would cross over the river, and maybe it came down the side here. Like, this has all been so developed you can't tell, because the railroad's over here. I do remember seeing somewhere the railroad goes over that canal. So at some point, the canal's on this side of the railroad. I'm looking for something kind the specific. Maybe it's down by the park. Somewhere along here. I have a pretty good shot of the actual existing canal. Still has water in it. There's a state park down here somewhere. Is this the railroad? Because it looks, I think that's the railroad over here. So this could possibly be no, I don't know. Or maybe this right here. So the canal had, let me see if I can find this park. Shenango Golf Course. There we go. State Park. Or Shenango Valley Park. Shenango River. So just like the Erie Canal. So the Erie Canal, it had, and I'm just going to use this for an example. The Erie Canal has a specific width of how wide it is, right? And then there's called a towpath that's next to it. And I believe the Erie Canal has, they're like a half a train or a small train that you attach a line to the boat and you pull the boat up the canal in certain parts where there isn't momentum or something, I don't know. But I think our Shenango Canal, or whatever the hell you call it, the boats were pulled by mules or horses. That's what I was looking for. If I can find the picture in my collection, I'll add it. Anyways, here at the park, there was some plaque or something. There was a little information about it. I think most of the canal was dug out by Irish immigrants, if I remember correctly. Park office, where's the park entrance? Anyways, but the canal went all the way down right here. So here's the Susquehanna River, and here's the Shenango River. Shenango goes all the way up. If you put a boat, like a canoe or something, or a inner tube with a motor on it, in the water right here, you could get to green from here. And this is the Susquehanna. Damn it. Susquehanna goes this way, and the Shenango goes north. But right down here somewhere, remember if it was a towpath or I don't know. I just remember there's something really interesting right down here. So I believe we'll see right here. There's the Susquehanna is higher here and lower here because there's this thing right here that let's see if you can see it through here. What the hell? Maybe this is it. That's what I was looking for right there. So see, the Susquehanna here is a little bit higher. So it has this little thing right here. And that's one of the bridges. So one of the older bridges, this one, I think I had a pretty cool picture of that, but I can't remember if I lost it or not. Let's see if there was a picture of, because the bridge right here, this is old and original. It's also blocked off on each side, or at least it was the last time I was there. This is a newer bridge, a little bit farther up or down, but the old bridge, that's looking north, I believe. There's a little bit. I have a pretty good shot of this, but I can't. There we go. So I believe this is close to traffic, but I can remember back in the 60s when you could still drive across that. Maybe it is reopened. I don't think so. Possibly. I had a shot kind of similar to this, but with not as much foliage on this side. Here it is in the winter. And it looks like it was freshly painted. Because I think the last time I saw it, you know, all these areas were rust. I was just kind of looking for, I think where this part here meets the other road going this way is where it's blocked off. You can see people here walking right down the middle of it. So yeah, as far as I know, it's still blocked off on both sides. You can't drive across this. But I can remember a time when we drove across it. Okay, so I had started talking about and completely forgot. Summer was coming around, and now it's 7 or 8. And I'm not sure where we live. Maybe we're up here at Castle Creek at the time. Although I think it was a couple years after that. Maybe not. Now, it was either Windsor or Kirkwood. Harpersville. So my mom had a sister named Emily, and Emily's husband Johnny and my dad would do a lot of hunting. but I can't remember if they lived in Windsor or Harperville or Kirkwood. But I think Kirkwood's over here. But I remember it being really out in the woods. So it could have been Windsor or it could have been Harpersville. But I'm going to lean towards Windsor. So anyways, way out in the woods. There was a family named Kerwin. Now, I think my dad knew the Kerwins. I was introduced to her, or I was told to call her Aunt Kay Kerwin, but I don't think she was a blood relative. So I don't think she was actually my aunt. I think maybe she had 3 or 4 kids. And maybe they just told me to call her Aunt Kay Kerwin. Maybe because my dad's sister was also Aunt Kay, Catherine. So maybe because I was so used to calling her Aunt Kay that I just called this lady Aunt Kay Kerwin. And they were way out in the middle of nowhere, and they had a farm. I remember them. I remember one summer, towards the end of the summer maybe, that I had to help them bale hay, which really sucked. I remember down the road a bit, like, let's just say, let's say like this is, and I'm just picking something at random. Let's say this was their farm. Let's just say this was their farm. Down the road a piece, darn it. Down the road a piece, like maybe, I remember it was a little farther than walking distance, you know, maybe let's say down here somewhere. I can't remember if it was another barn or another residence with a barn, a small barn. But they were guinea pig breeders. They would take me down there and they'd have like, 40 guinea pigs or something. I was never a real fan of guinea pigs, but I remember that part. So Aunt Kay Kerwin, this isn't her place. I'm just using this for an example. The house was on one side, and the barn, they had a big barn right across the road. And like all this was field that they did hay in. She had a kid, so if I was there at like, I'm gonna say 8, she had a kid that was like high school age. I think she had one that was between high school and my age, and a kid my age, and I think a girl that was just a couple years younger than me or something. And they had a pond, and they didn't know and they knew that I couldn't swim. So whenever they wanted me to do something that I didn't want to do, they'd say, you better do it or we're going to throw you in the pond. Also, these little bastards, one day they thought it would be funny. I can't remember where. Well, again, the barn was across the road from the residence. So I can't remember if Aunt Kay was just in the house and we were down in the barn playing, or maybe she went down to the hamster farm, or maybe she was in town getting groceries. But the oldest boy was in charge of, making sure we didn't kill ourselves. And him and his next younger brother thought it would be funny. They took me in the barn and they brought in like a kitchen seat, kitchen chair, and they tied me to it with just regular rope, and then they blindfolded me, and then they threw the rope up over like a support beam, which at the time, if I was 8, because my parents were still together, this rafter at the time I was 8 looked like it was 12 feet in the air. So they threw the rope up over the rafter, and then they proceeded to pull on the rope, and like I could just barely see out the bottom of the blindfold, and it looked to me as an 8-year-old like I was 9 feet off the ground, which in actuality it was probably 2 or 3 feet. But you know, being that young, tied to a chair, blindfolded, and I could barely see out the bottom of it, it looked like I was 12 feet off the ground. And you know, I thought for sure they were just gonna let go of the rope just to see what happened. But anyways, they ended up letting me down, and I remember telling Aunt Kay about it at the dinner table, and she yelled at them, and you know, nothing became of it. But so later, much later, like when me and my dad moved back to New York after he retired, Dad had told me, like I was just walking by, and he goes, "Hey, you know, you remember Aunt Kay Kerwin?" I go, "Yeah." And he tells me, he goes, "Did you know her oldest boy, Dusty?" He goes, "Do you remember Dusty?" I go, "Yeah, I remember Dusty." Because he had, you know, glasses and kind of a pimply face. You know, he was high school age. He goes, "Do you remember Dusty?" I go, "Yeah, I remember Dusty." He goes, "Do you know he's in prison or was in prison or something like that?" I go, "What? No." I go, "You know, after that summer, I don't ever remember anything to do with the Kerwins ever again." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "At some point," he goes, "Dusty shot his mom with a shotgun and went to prison." I was like, "What?" I've never looked that up. Like, I don't even know how I'd begin to look that up. Like, are there prison records? And I'm not even exactly sure if I believe the last name, I could spell it, but, you know, if it was some weird spelling. But, I go, "Yeah, and you left me there for a whole summer. Remember that?" Okay, so I had moved back to New York the first time, and we were living off Moeller Street, which is right here. Now, Mom, okay, so let me go back even further. I remember I told you I had planted seeds right here, snapdragon seeds that I got out of a cereal box. Well, something else green is known for. So let's go back up here to green. Here's 12. Go up 12. Golf course, canal. Single fire department. 12. We're still going up 12. 12 storage. Okay. And Okay, so this was the house, or the bed and breakfast. They had the Underground Railroad rooms in it, secret rooms. This is the house me and Dad were living in. Dad bought. This was a carriage barn from about the 1850s. Mowing this lawn was a real pain in the ass because the height of the street here and the height of the grass side lot, there was a good, I'll say 5 foot difference. So from about here, just below the telephone pole, all the way down to about this tree. From about here, all the way over to about here. This was all like I'd have to ride the side, the lawnmower, the riding lawnmower. I'd have to sit as far to the right on the lawnmower as I could, so the lawnmower wouldn't roll down the side of this small hill. But anyways, so here's the train tracks. And over here is Page Seed. And Page Seed has been packaging seeds for like ever. Since like the 1900s or something. So who knows, the seed packet I got in that cereal box could have come from here. It's still in business today, as far as I know, or at least it was when I left. This railroad right here, when me and Dad were living right here, for the first couple years we'd hear the train going by, because living that close to the train, you could feel it when it went by. When it blew its horn going across the street, you could feel the horn. But at some point, this river right here, I've got pictures. Matter of fact, the river is really low if you're seeing that right there. But when the snow starts melting, or there's really heavy rains in May, this floods. I have pictures. I've taken pictures of the river all the way up to the baseball field here, all the way up and around here. All of this is higher, but all of this right here, underwater, all the way up through here. And as a matter of fact, we've gotten all of this flooded. Like I said, this is kind of a hill. The difference between here and here is like 5 feet. Our basement was flooded. It never reached the first floor. But, and I don't think this will give me street view. But the first floor of the house here and the floor of the garage, there's a good 3 foot difference. The garage is lower. Matter of fact, I believe this is old carriage barn from the 1850s. I believe this was actually part of this property. You know, maybe 50, 100 years ago. The carriage barn was for this place. Okay, so this is dated about 1850s. I think this house is actually dated around 1900. Maybe 1920-ish. So it's not as old as the surrounding. What else was I gonna do? Oh, okay. So if we follow, and I don't know how recent this all is. Sunrise Family Farm. Back when I was there, this was there was no active business in it, but maybe something has so somewhere up here, I think the tracks got flooded out, and the state or whoever didn't want to fix the railroad. So for the longest time, we weren't hearing the railroad go by. This thing goes up and around here, so it could have been right here. This may have gotten flooded out, and the tracks got all fucked up. You know, I don't think I've ever been on this part of the road. There also used to be, oh, maybe this is over here, because this looks kind of, because all this right here is probably swamp. So that looks a little fucked up, kind of. So, somewhere up through there, the railroad got all messed up. They didn't want to fix it, so so we only heard trains going by our place for a couple of years, and then it just stopped. I think there was something else I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember right now. Oh, so yeah, the first time I came back, Mom was living in one of these places. It's either that one or this one, but I don't really see two driveways here, so I'm leaning towards this place right here. And I remember when Jack started going to school, we would walk to school from here down here. So I can remember us walking past here, and our school, we'd walk all the way up to here to this corner. Someplace down here was a small market. Somewhere right along here is a small, like a, not a liquor store, but I don't know, maybe it was liquor too. But maybe it was on this corner. Somewhere along here was a small market, because that's where I'd use my lunch money to buy gum and comic books. But we would, if we arrived here too early, there'd be lines of kids standing out here. So depending on what your homeroom was, depended on which line you stood in. And I think even in the winter, if it was snowing out 30 degrees, if you got there too early, they didn't open the door until, a certain time. So sometimes, you'd have to stand out there for 5 minutes. Sometimes you'd have to stand out there for 10 minutes, depending on, how early you got there. But I went to this school. Me and my little brother went to this school for a while. I can remember this right here is a pretty steep hill. Like the height of this ground to the height of the street is a good 12-foot difference. The street is much higher than over here, and during the winter we'd grab a big piece of cardboard or whatever, and we'd just spend the whole recess sliding up and down, or sliding down this little area. So I was probably in this apartment for, who knows, 6 months. Then I missed Dad, and Dad, I think to our mom, we were just a welfare check and a child support check. My dad really loved me and my brother. As a matter of fact, I think that was half the reason for the divorce. Is my dad thought my mom was too mean to me and my little brother. I got hit with coat hangers, the metal coat hangers, belts with the rings in it. I got beat with broomsticks. So anyways, lived here for a while. And then I went back out to California. And then the next time I came out, here's 81. We lived in Tunkhannock. There it is, right there. So Binghamton was about 20 miles north. There it is. Binghamton was about 15 from right here to Binghamton is about 15 minutes. And then she moved down to Tunkhannock. There's Nicholson. I remember it was somewhere kind of close to Nicholson. I lost it. Where'd it go? Her mom's new boyfriend parents lived in Nicholson. Where the hell did Tunkhannock go? I lost it. I remember it was over here in the middle of nowhere. Well, here's 81. It was kind of far from 81, wasn't it? Alright. Tunkhannock. And I was in I think I was in 4th grade here. And I was in the marching band. So there's Tunkhannock. Here's 81. Where the hell over here? So then I lived here for a while, maybe a year and a half. And then I moved back out to California for 6 months or a year. Every year. Well, not every year, but just about every year I was going back and forth. New York to California, California to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania back to California. So I remember living here for a while, and then the next time I came back out, we were in Clark Summit. one of these, Clark Summit, where's 81? Here's 81. So Clark Summit, so I think the high school was down here somewhere. But where we lived, I can show you exactly where we lived if I can find. There was a truck stop. I couldn't have been this far out. Unless the truck stop's been, because I'd ride my bike in the Clark Summit. That sort of looks like maybe the truck stop's been torn down by now. Or you know what? That might be the truck stop right there. So there'd have to be another freeway thing with nothing around it. Unless it's been developed by then. And then there was a group of, there they are, right there. Wow. So the last time, maybe this is where I'm thinking of. Because I remember an overpass with just being surrounded by woods. Yeah, because it didn't have exits like this. So maybe this is the old truck stop. No, I think the old truck stop. I actually rode my bike up here one time. Or a few times. I think this is the old truck stop. And the only reason I'd ride my bike up here is because they had 3 pinball machines. So yeah, I'd ride my bike down this road right here. Damn it. So, Mom would talk to, for some reason I don't remember it being that far, or maybe just, this definitely wasn't there. Mom would had a base station. Or maybe this, I don't know. This might be the overpass surrounded by woods, because all this stuff looks fairly new. So maybe this next, no, it could have been that one. I don't know. But I do know for sure this is the apartment complex we're in. And when we lived in this apartment complex, matter of fact, we lived in the top apartment right there. So I can remember my mom's car parked in these spots. We had a blind Siamese kitty cat named Turkey. And I would take him out for walks, and I would jingle my keys, and he'd follow the sound of the keys. And I'd walk him over here, and don't ask me how, but somehow he could sense where grasshoppers were, and he'd catch grasshoppers and eat them. But I would take the kitty out for a walk, and I remember one winter day we had I don't know if you'd call it black ice or just an ice storm, where I think the rain falls as rain, but the earth is cold enough that when the rain lands, it freezes. So it doesn't turn to snow, it turns to ice. Everything, the roads, cars, everything is covered in ice. And the school bus made it up this far, and this is an uphill. I think the school bus made the turn and got about here and slid backwards with the brakes applied, slid all the way back down to the bottom here. And I came out, I was like somewhere around here when I saw this, and carefully I got a running start, and I slid like from here like all the way down to here. But when we lived here, all of this was dense woods, and this is also a hill. The elevation from here to here is a good, it's not feet, it's yards. But this was all just as thick as the forest or the trees are here. All of this. Matter of fact, all of this looked like this. Because we would come down, and I think we had a tree fort or something like right around here. We never really went to the top that much, but we played a lot in the woods, like right around here. Me and a buddy. I had a buddy that lived up in this complex. We grabbed our sleds, and so all of this was paved, but from this intersection this way was a dirt road. None of this was all woods, but there was a dirt road that went back here. Remember the baseball diamond or whatever is down here? Because I remember hitting a home run once from like here-ish all the way up into these trees. But all this was dirt road, all the way down to here and around up over to here. That was all dirt road, and like what you're seeing here, what you're seeing here was all here. So this is the first time I've seen all this, and but anyways, so we grabbed our sleds and we walked down here and around through here, because this was here. This was still all dirt road, but this was all here back here, and we came down to about here, I guess, and there was maybe like an old logging road or something that came up this way and eventually went to the top. But we'd walk up this because this was a kind of a steep hill. It was a long, steep hill, and we'd spend 2 or 3 hours sledding down and walking back up, sledding down, walking back up. So one day, this little clearing was always there. One day we're sledding, and we were somewhere, maybe where we were sledding was right here, because we could see this whole clearing, and we were resting. We'd been sledding for like 2 hours straight, so we took like a 20-minute break, and we were just sitting here talking. And somewhere over here was like a tree stump, But you know, if it's really bright out and you stare at something long enough, like a tree stump, you could swear it's moving. And we thought it was a bear. And so I asked my buddy, I go, do you see that thing over there moving? And he was like, you think it's a bear? And I go, I don't know. It's like, it's not getting closer or farther away, but it looks like something, like maybe it's eating a deer or something. But like, we just grabbed our sleds and we took off. But yeah, none of this was here. The dirt road connected over here. I remember that because I think I did come down this once on my bike in the summer. But none of that was there. There was just the apartment complex, this little bit, and there's a fire station like right there. And one of my best friends, Sam, lived in this corner house. There was a really hot chick that we went to school with. She lived in one of these. This was Sam's house. This was Joe's house. I think this one right here. So, yeah, there was like a little dirt path or something that I would take to go to Joe's house. There was like a little dirt path that came up along right here. But anyways, my mom would get on the CB base station and she'd talk to truckers because this was all a really steep hill. So it would take truckers forever to get up this hill, like from way down here. And the top of the hill was like up here. So like all this was just a steady uphill. So she would talk to the truck drivers going up and down the hill. And every once in a while, I would look out my bedroom window and I'd see a truck parked up here. And he'd give us like a whole case of ice cream or, case of steaks or something. This was way back in the mid-70s. Mid-70s or mid to late 70s. So those are the two places I lived in Pennsylvania. Jack will have some memories of that place. Clark Summit. So it's right off of 81 and 81. Take you all the way up, right up into Binghamton. Alright, well, that's all I can think of right now. Plus this is getting pretty long. Holy cow, 3 hours. So just some of the memories I have of growing up long time ago. Alright, leave a comment.